Nick Mitchell of We Say It podcast, who I'm delighted to say is my cousin. Welcome, Nick.
How are you doing, Niall?
I'm very well. What do you think of tonight's historic moment in Scottish history? What do you think? Are we going to be in a better position with Labour taking the mantle, the helm here in Scotland?
Just before I answer your question on that one, I have one question for yourself. What is a woman?
What's the point? I don't know. I hate to ask the missus for that. It's just see this thing. It's what is a woman question. It's actually like it's so sad, Nick, isn't it?
It really is.
It seems like it's a sign of the times. You remember I stood on Rutherglen High Street. It's a sign of the times that 100% of the street can agree that no matter what I do, I could take all the hormone drugs on planet Earth. I can undergo 10,000 surgeries. It's not going to make me a woman because nothing can, because nothing will. It's very, very sad to see, and it's sort of it's become to be like the litmus test almost for politicians these days, Nick, isn't it? As to, can you trust them? You have to ask them this, what kind of woman, what is a woman question? And it's just really sad. And I think it's a sad indictment on our country in general, on the Western world in general, Nick. And it goes to show you how far we've fallen. I mean, think we used to have historic leaders like Robert the Bruce. I knew what we got. We can't even decide what a woman is. It's absolutely pathetic, Nick.
So going to your question, the country under a Labour government is the end of the UK. If you think things were bad with the Tories, you ain't seen nothing yet. What platforms are we on so I can remain politically
you're
correct?
Live on no, you don't need to be politically correct on my show, Nick. I mean, you be yourself. And I'm a full bottle of champagne deep. So I'm celebrating, Nick. I don't know about you, but this has been like the culmination of, I feel like, not only my hard work, but the work of the likes of Craig Houston, David Griffiths, the Force for Good. I'm even going to shout out the majority as well. This is the work of all these anti-SNP voices finally getting a wee bit of respite, finally getting some traction, and ending up with a positive result. But again, it's I go back to what Craig Houston says. We've been asked to choose between a shite and a jobby.
Well, I saw one earlier.
It looks like we've chosen the jobby.
It was one earlier. What was it? What was the one I seen earlier? I bookmarked it actually very quickly. I'll get it up for 2 seconds. This was actually
cheers,
a really
everyone,
good one.
to the demise of the SNP.
Replacing
Get your comments in.
Replacing Sunak with Starmer is like changing your tie when you've shat your pants. And it's like, what?
I like that one. That's good.
This whole tactical voting for me, right? I hate it, right? Why not actually engage your brain, right? Do your research, look at manifestos, look at people, look at their person, look at their demeanour, because you can tell a lot from a person by the way they carry themselves. So if you can actually use your logical thinking brain and look at candidates and look at people and say, who do I actually think is the best person, right? Then base your vote upon that. Not just vote Bob fucking Jimmy down the road because you want to get rid of the SNP. Yes, we want to get rid of the SNP. Of course we do, right? Fuck the SNP. We've had 17 years of absolute garbage government that have done nothing for the country, who never will do anything for the country, who are all in it for themselves. Now just look at the clown we've got now, standing with a fucking pink cowboy hat on.
I know.
Right? I'm sorry, but
do we have a picture of that? Sorry, can the producer get a picture of that? That is, I mean, the pink cowboy hat was really just What's he playing at, Nick? What's he playing at, man?
You are your Eastern European countries, your Middle Eastern countries, your Chinas, your Australias. They're fucking laughing at us.
Aye.
They are sitting there, doubled over in stitches, saying, "Look at the West. Look how far it's fallen. Not just us, but America as well. But what happens in America dictates to what happens to us."
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, we are at a turning point now with our election, but you better believe what happens in America in November will shape the UK's future for the next, I'm going to say, 2 decades.
I mean, just for clarity, I mean, what do you think is going to happen in America? Do you think Trump's going to scoosh it?
Trump's going to romp it. The more they're publicising the negativity, it's the same way here. So the more they publicise the negativity, the more people are looking at it and going, "This is garbage. Like, this is garbage, so I'm going to vote for him." So the more they were trying to shut Nigel Farage up in the Reform Party by criticising him here, talking about him here, talking him right wing and all this jazz, the more people were going, why are they trying so hard, as they have done in previous years, when the governments and the mainstream media try their best to silence someone and shut them up? That means they're doing something right, you know?
Yeah.
And that speaks volume. Why is cancel culture a thing? You know, so if you're speaking truth and you're getting silenced, that obviously means you're speaking truth because they don't want you to hear it. Now, I haven't tuned in. I tuned in a little bit earlier on, but I've been awake since 4:30 this morning, so I was awake, asleep, and I heard a little bit. I was talking with your previous guest about the WHO and the WEF. Now, you know yourself, I've been speaking about these things for months and months now, and I'm sitting with my tinfoil hat on. Like,
it's no longer tinfoil hat type conspiracy stuff, Nick. This is I mean, see, fast forward from a few years ago, it was tinfoil hat stuff, but now it's mainstream stuff. Everyone knows at this point that there's these supernatural globalist organizations that are sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Just unilaterally affecting policies right across the West, from America to Australia to Britain to the Commonwealth, to all these Western countries. It's such a brutal thing to endure, isn't it?
And this is just the beginning. This is only the beginning. This is only going to get worse. You watch over the next 3 to 5 years what is coming. You like, seriously, people need to wake up. They really need to wake up. And under a Labour government, I mean, yes, we're getting rid of the SNP. Yes, we're getting rid of the Tories as such. But what I was looking at this election it's premeditated. They already know who's getting in. They already know who's going to be Prime Minister. What we voting for was the opposition. If you have a strong opposition, then you almost have a fighting chance. If you don't have a strong opposition, then the Labour will get away with whatever they want. We need somebody on the other side of the bench who's willing to stand up and challenge policies, challenge agendas, challenge laws. Because when was the last time you seen them remove a law?
No, it's always added to,
never.
Isn't
it's
it?
Always
it's never, yes.
Cumulative.
I mean, I'll ask you the same question that I've been asking other people, right? And it's yes, we've got the danger of Labour, right? But do you foresee any danger with Farage and Reform as well? Because again, where's the strings attached, Nick? You know, I mean, like, where can you put your trust these days? That's the real question, isn't it?
Trust is a strong word. I trust no one. I trust myself in this current climate to be honest with you. I have a sneaky suspicion, and I haven't shared it publicly yet, so this is the first time we share them publicly. I think Israel is funding reform.
Mm-hmm.
I think to have that much influence and that much push this early on, you need millions. You need big money.
An exclusive. 2 seconds. Ewan, you are live to almost 3,000 viewers now on the Niall Fraser Show. What is happening in Elgin?
So we've had a bit of a problem. The postal vote system has gone down for verifying, and so they're now manually by hand going through checking signatures against files and things.
Oh,
and so we don't
my
have a turnout.
God.
They're just going to start counting. They don't know how many votes there are. They're just going to start counting.
Wow. We've got an exclusive here on the Niall Fraser Show, guys. The postal vote systems went down, Ewan.
Well, it's not working. For purpose.
So this will, I'm sure, delay the count for at least a couple hours.
Well, they're going to start now and hopefully fix it by the next hour. But we'll see. Maybe the turnout hasn't come out yet, so that's going to be a problem, though, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's going to be a problem. Interesting, you. So even disregarding the issue with the postal votes, do you still think it's going to still land on the Tories winning up there?
I think that's the feeling in the room. That's what the picture is coming out of. That's what I see. Reform are going to take a big chunk, but I'm still seeing.
You could sort of guesstimate, Ewan, what sort of vote share Reform's going to get, what would you guesstimate?
Between 5 and 10, I would say, easily, maybe 7.
That's still an incredible result for them, isn't it? I dare say you've seen a few votes for yourself.
I've seen a few. I think we've been squeezed a bit. Obviously, Westminster is not our big department. Holyrood is a big one, but I think we still see a modest result. Okay.
Right, so you've heard it, guys. Any more intel, Ewan, please do call back. That's incredible news you've just given us. So the postal vote system is down in Elgin. I mean, what are they using to count that?
Just by hand, they are going into the files on the computer and they're opening them one by one because I think it opens all of them on the screen to verify the signatures. And they're having to go through one by one and try and pick out signatures from picture files and, so
wow.
It's really manual.
Wow. This is just incredible. Right, Ewan, you've given us something to think about. Thanks very much. Any more information, please do call back and you'll be live on the show again, my friend, right?
Okay,
right,
cheers.
Take care and thanks again.
Right, so
you heard it from Ewan, who's a Scottish Family Party candidate up in Elgin. The postal vote system is down up there, so they have to manually count and verify signatures associated with the postal votes. So, I mean, you think, Nick, that, well, one, if it's going for, I mean, what were they use? What sort of software are they using in order to sort of collate the postal votes? I mean, I did not know that the postal votes would be, counted by computer. For starters.
I thought they would have went to like we'll call it a centralized hub, if you want to call it that sort of thing, So all the postal votes get posted. Well, that's why they're postal vote. That's what it's called, a postal vote. You post your vote. So I thought they would have been delivered to like a central hub, if you want to call it that, and they would have been counted there. So this is 2020 fucking American election all over again, because it was all postal votes back then because of COVID,
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of speculation getting thrown about, are they going to sort of rig this election? Are they going to sway it?
And Nick, just before you go on, how would you rig an election? Would it be the postal votes?
Well, we've seen it in the past. you've seen postal cards scribbled out and marked in another one. You've seen it firsthand. You've seen you've seen cards get skipped. You know, they'll 1, 2, and then skip another. They'll skip 1 or 2. There's been video evidence of it. There's been video evidence of mass cheating. There's been evidence of votes getting binned, or they just fell into the bin by accident. It's like, fucking come on. How gullible do you think we are as human beings, you know? Like, get a grip. So if for every 1 vote, say Labour, or sorry, for every 2 votes or 3 votes Labour, there's 1 vote for the others, you know? And it's like, okay, so they've got 3 and nobody's got any, or they've got 1, or now they've got 6, or you've got 2, maybe you might still have 1, you know? I think it can, because you're telling me you've got all those people sitting there counting and they don't make mistakes.
Well, the thing is,
like,
not only are they counting, Nick, right? The thing is, see if I put a postal, if me and you go in to vote in Elgin, right? We're there, my ID's shown, which is a new thing, right? The very first election that you had to require photo ID was the election that I was in Rutherglen. Can you believe that, Nick? Right, so I've got a wee small part of history there, right? But I was the very first election in which you required photo identification in order to vote. Now, you know, this whole election's been done in the same fashion, right? So you can, you know, realistically and reliably count votes that me and you cast because we've shown identification. It's done on the day. It's in a ballot box, right? Done, dusted. You don't need anything else. But when we go to postal votes, it's a different kettle of fish, Nick, because you're going to have to verify the signature of that person who signed the vote, right? So it's not as if you're just counting the vote. You're counting the vote and you're verifying the signature associated with the vote.
Yeah,
right?
I know. Aye.
So this is going to take an absolute mountain of time. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've got an exclusive all the way from Elgin, which is in the postal vote system. The system they're using to collate and verify postal votes is down. So now they're manually going through and manually verifying every single postal vote in Elgin, which to me would take minimum 3 to 4 hours. With, you know, I don't even know how much men or women have got, like how much manpower is available up there in Elgin at this time of night. It's very, very strange. So we've got an exclusive here on the Niall Fraser Show. The postal vote system is down in Elgin. If you can entertain me just a second, we're going to phone back Alan McManus. He's got some new intel in the Paisley count. Going to get him live on speakerphone now.
This is the Vodafone voicemail service for...
No, we aren't. He's went straight to answer phone. But he is saying he's talking amongst Reform candidates and David Cameron's photographer is taking his pictures. Great time for great time for all. I mean, people.
See, what I did with my ID when I went in was I had my driving license and I covered all my vital information. And I went, there's my name, there's my address. And she went to take it out of my hand. I went, no, that's my personal information. You will see my name, my address, my photo, and I keep my ID. Because that's my personal information. This isn't Nazi Germany. This isn't, you know, communist China.
Well, at the same time, I mean, we want to make sure that people voting are legitimate citizens, right?
That's one aspect.
Well, if theoretically, Nick, right, if we were to cheat a vote, the way you would do it is through the postal votes. Absolutely, 100%. I mean, it's the way it was done. It's the way it would be done. That's the only way that theoretically I would think is the way to cheat, because now they require photo identification in order to win. I see we've actually no given David Richardson a phone, who is over at the East Kilbride count. So we're going to give him a phone right now. Sorry, Nick, but you can stay with us as long as you want, my friend, right?
Oh, good evening. Good morning, Niall.
Yes, good morning, David. You are live on the Niall Fraser Show. You've got almost 3,000 people listening to your dulcet tones.
Great. Good morning, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of you 3,000 faithful.
Right. So, would you like to, introduce yourself, who you represent, where you are, and what you're seeing on the ground?
Great, yes. Well, I'm David Richardson. I'm a candidate for the Scottish Family Party. This is my first experience of doing this, and I'm at the count here in the John Wright's Sports Centre, which is in East Kilbride.
Mm-hmm.
So we have three separate counts going on in here. We've got Hamilton, we've got Rutherglen, and we've got East Kilbride. Obviously, I'm focusing on East Kilbride. I'm here with my wife, Jane.
Hello, Jane. If you're listening.
35 years. Yeah, she's keeping her BDI because they're just currently doing the count very meticulously in front of me here.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm seeing is a I would say a clear victory for the Labour, which would be a big seismic shock here in East Kilbride. It's been SNP for quite some time. I wouldn't say it's a huge margin, but it's easy to see.
Starting to rack up. It's starting to become up.
Yes, you can see that there's a majority here.
Are you spying on the people's tally sheets?
Yes, I have been looking at that. Yeah, they've moved on from that now. They're into the counting and the piling up of the votes. But yes, the tally sheets were in full swing about an hour or two ago. Yes, I was having a look at those. Yeah, so it is. It's a wonderful demonstration of transparency actually here. You can be right up against the count that's going on. It really is.
Well, I'm so glad you're there, and I'm so glad that you're seeing it so visibly. Is it just the East Kilbride you've got your eyes on, or are you seeing the same pattern or a similar pattern across both Hamilton and the other constituency you mentioned?
Yes.
So it's East Kilbride, Hamilton, and what?
East Kilbride, Hamilton, and Rutherglen.
Okay.
They're the three counts going on under the same roof here. Mostly, I'm looking at the East Kilbride, but I can't help but see what's happening elsewhere, and it does seem to be a pattern that's happening across the board. So, some extraordinary.
Well, they're very, very similar constituencies, East Kilbride, Rutherglen, and Hamilton, aren't they? So we could probably assume that if East Kilbride are similar, like they're voting. I mean, would you say it's like maybe 4 votes Labour, 3 votes SNP? What's the sort of numbers you're seeing?
When you say 4 votes,
I'm like the ratio of like.
Yes, yeah. Oh, I would say for every 4 votes for Labour, that's probably quite an accurate summary. There is 3 votes for SNP. Yes, and Reform. They're definitely making an impact here. They're going to beat the Tories. I'm pretty sure of it.
This is crazy, David. I mean, I'm hearing a similar story all the way up in the Highlands here, right?
Really?
So we've been on the phone to our man Ewan in the Highlands, and he is saying a very similar story about Reform.
Yeah.
He says they're going to retain their deposit absolutely secure.
Really?
So, first of all, did you see the exit polls that the SNP are going to be down to 10 MPs?
Yes, I did. I did see that.
I mean, it's gorgeous in one.
Wow.
But it just means that our work in the Holyrood election maybe have to intensify because now the the SNP are going to become the party that demands the list vote, you see.
Yes. Yes, well, the reform entering the fray the way they have is it's been quite extraordinary. I noticed a number of the initial results that came through. It was quite amazing that the Tories were getting beaten into third and fourth place because of reform, and Lib Dem putting in a pretty decent showing as well. Mm-hmm. So, but from my perspective, the Scottish Family Party, I'm quite encouraged. What I'm seeing actually, there's a very small pile on every table, but we're showing up quite well. So I set myself a target of 1%. So maybe we'll hit that, and maybe more besides. Who knows?
Well, the thing is, David, you've done one more than anyone else, and you've stood on your principles, right? So this is what I'm saying to all the Scottish Family Party candidates. They've put themselves right in the firing line, and you've done incredibly well. And it doesn't really matter what percentage you get. It's just about being there and representing the values that you represent. So
we've been approached on a number of occasions actually, as a Labour activist came up to us and says, "Can't believe it, my wife voted for you," and there's been a few actually folks. I don't understand it, Niall. An older gentleman came up to me there and says, "I'm full agreement with your pro-life stance," and amazingly, I went through the list of our headline stances and principles, and he agreed with them all. And I said,
this is the thing. It's so annoying. This is the thing. It all boils down to But again, David, it's boiling down to the tactical voting this election, isn't it? So it's interesting that you're reporting the same thing across the board, and I'm hearing the same thing for all our other candidates as well. Is that reform seem to be getting quite a hefty percentage as well.
Definitely
are. You're live to 3,000 people here. Well done, and thank you so much for all the information.
You're so welcome. It's a pleasure, privilege. Lovely to hear your voice again, Niall. It really is.
Likewise, David. And we need to catch up very soon.
We do, absolutely. I'd like that very much.
Right, you take care, my friend. And if you get any more key information, please do call back. But I think we're probably going to call the stream in about an hour's time. But the way you see it, the lay of the land, let's just conclude. It looks like right across the three constituencies that are being counted in that location, East Kilbride, Rutherglen and Hamilton, it looks to be Labour through and through, all three of them.
Yeah, it looks like it to me.
Okay.
But any update, I'll let you know for sure.
Right, you're a star, David. I'll let you go.
Good, bless you. Thanks.
God bless you, my friend. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Right, so you heard it from David himself. So it looks like East Kilbride, Rutherglen and Hamilton are all going to be Labour. Interesting that. But again, story of the night. Reform. Everyone's surprised at the level of reform. Nick, you're going to have to bear with me another second. I've got another call coming through, right? 2 seconds, my friend. I feel like I'm punishing you for some reason, honestly. Right, bear with us, guys. We've got another guy live from the count, Alan McManus, who's in Paisley. We're going to phone him right now, and we're going to see just what the lay of the land is. Come on, Alan. You just told me to phone. 2 seconds.
You're trying to silence me. Cancel.
I'm trying. You're cancelled, Nick.
Cancelled. I'm silenced. While we wait, guys, that was my Rumble handle. That is where I do the majority of my work on Rumble. So go over to Rumble and drop it a follow.
That's Robert saying it's he's quietest he's seen you in months. Hello, Alan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Niall. How are you?
I'm fantastic. All the better to hear from yourself. And so you're live on the Niall Fraser Show with 3,000 people listening to you. And they're all eager to hear what you're seeing on the ground here in Paisley.
Okay, so there's not a lot of activity on the tables, on the counting tables now. There's only really one or two people that are still kind of clearing up, but most of the desks are all sorted now, and people are just standing around. So I think we're soon going to move to the next stage, which is, I'm sure you know,
Yes.
it's looking at the ambiguous ballot papers.
Oh, that's my favourite bit, Alan.
What I love about it is because mistakes are so random. You know, mistakes and other things are so random, so that it gives you a kind of, an across-the-board estimation of who's getting the first preference,
Yes.
And often I think you can get an idea of who's won in each, election. So I think we're going to be moving there. So I had an conversation with both candidates, both Reform candidates from the North and the South constituencies here. Both very nice gentlemen, one older, one younger. Both quite modest, and I was, of course, praising how Reform's doing and saying that they're putting the issues on the agenda, issues that some other parties weren't looking at so much. They both seem quite wise and quite humble about what's happening, and, not expecting to win entirely, but just pleased that Reform are making waves. Which I think is interesting. So I was talking.
It certainly is, yeah. So I'm just to give you some more information. I'm just off the phone with David Richardson, who is in East Kilbride at the moment, and he is telling a very similar story where Reform are getting quite a large percentage of the vote.
Right. Okay.
And that's being seen right across the Highlands as well.
Okay, so it doesn't surprise me. I voted Reform myself today in Cumbernauld and Kirkcondilloch. The chap, Billy Ross, is a friend of Alistair McConnachie, the host, and and that was good enough for me. And just seemed like a stand-up guy. I liked what he said on who can I vote for on his profile. So yeah, it's interesting. The Tories are looking a little bit down. I don't think they're having a great night. The Lib Dems, well, they're always hopeful. What can we say?
Yeah.
Had an interesting conversation with the two Green candidates, and it was all about trans issues. Interestingly, Mark and I, the Freedom Alliance candidate, were having a conversation with one of the candidates just about, life, the universe and everything, and the other one came in and basically told us off for using the phrase trans ideology. And my response to that, to the candidate who is that the problem is that there's a backlash and people are unable to distinguish between, for example, some guy in Nigeria or Uganda just trying to get on with his life, and some dude in New York trying to walk down the street naked in front of children wearing a furry mask. And those two things are not the same. So if you've got activists saying that we've got to support all of that, that's not helpful, because that could actually affect the chances of some guy, Rhodes, who's just in love with his best mate and can't really do anything about it. Do you know what I mean? And so I think there is a nuanced debate to be had, and I think that what's useful counts is to be able to kind of cross party boundaries a bit and actually speak to real people and think about their lives, and sometimes those conversations can be inspiring, they can be interesting, but when you get people who just won't talk to you, then that's a missed opportunity, I think, Those are just my random thoughts.
I mean, we appreciate it, Alan, and you've given me and my co-host at the moment, Nick, a really good laugh there, because you're absolutely right. There's such a disparity between, like what you described, the guy in Nigeria just wanting to, go about his daily life, and someone that wants to walk naked in the street in front of kids.
Yeah, and as Mark was saying, like before all this stuff, trans people just wanted to get on with their lives and they didn't want to draw attention to themselves. Now, and I'm really talking about transsexuals, now it's like their head is so above the parapet, and a lot of them actually, they don't want this, they don't want all this attention, but the kids are like, oh yeah, you've got to be out and proud and scream about it, and they're like, no, I just really wanted to get on with my life, actually, So, do you know what I mean? It's like there's not just one issue, and there are people involved, and it's like, not everything that we're saying in our parties is against, these people. Do you know what I mean? In fact, in some ways, we're actually more supportive because we're the ones who are actually caring about people who are detransitioning.
Yeah, of
people
course.
Who, do you know what I mean? Like, we're the ones that were like, I feel for you in your situation, because you really thought this was the best thing for you. And I feel your pain, whereas, these activists are just spurning them. They're just like, oh, well, you weren't trans in the first place. Go away. And it's like, no, that's not compassion. That's it. That is a human being. That's a life. You know what I mean? Like, we can't be like that.
I'm with you, Alan. And, I always feel that the most honest and truthful thing you can do and say to these people is, you have to tell them the truth. You can't encourage the delusion.
Yes.
And this is, I think we talked about it earlier on the show, but it's what I'm calling weaponized compassion and kindness, where, you're saying it's kind and compassionate to encourage the delusion.
Yes.
Whereas me and you both know, and anyone with a reasonable thinking head knows, it's the opposite.
Well, that's it. I mean, the thing is that, any kind of somatic dysphoria, it's something in someone's head. I mean, I remember I used to live in California, and that I knew this beautiful young woman who thought she was the size of an elephant.
Oh, that's horrible.
And she was beautiful, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with her. And she was bullied and all the rest of it. Now, fortunately, through various therapies and acceptance and things like that, she managed to pull through it. But at no point did we affirm that mistaken belief that she was obese and ugly and horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But she absolutely believed that. But that would not have been kind to do that. And we didn't laugh at her for saying that. We would just accept, okay, that's how she thought about herself. But that's what we saw, and we lovingly and kindly reflected back our appreciation of her beauty until she finally saw it.
Mm-hmm. So some comments coming in about what you're saying. Poor girl, and they feel for the situation. Right, just to sort of deviate from that, Alan. Can you sort of can you tell us what you're seeing on the ground in terms of voting? Just to sort of take it away from the sort of political chat. Although I'm so happy that you're having these conversations with people, but and it is enlightening, isn't it, Alan? But what we'll do is we'll pivot from that to what you're seeing on the ground in terms of votes.
So in terms of votes, what I'm seeing is that in Paisley and Renfrewshire North, it seems to me as if Labour are going to take that seat. And in Paisley and Renfrewshire South, it still seems to be a tie-up between Labour and SNP. However, in the last few minutes, Labour are looking happier and the SNP are looking more tense. So I wouldn't be surprised, in fact, if both seats went to Labour. That would not surprise me.
Ooh. Well, that's what we're going to leave it with, Alan. Thank you so much for that. And again, a great conversation and great story there. And please do, I mean, you will anyway, but please do continue these conversations with people, because, it's no every day that you get to have these conversations with people that are in the political arena. So you have yourself a great time. I'm sure you are already. Just having these conversations, it's right up your street. So you have yourself a great time. Thank you so much for answering the phone and being on the other end of the phone and giving us this information. Okay.
Okay. Cheers, Neil.
Right, no worries, Alan. Thank you. That's Alan McManus of the Freedom Alliance there. Right. So we're looking at 2 wins for Labour there. So it seems to be the theme across the board is that Labour seem to be winning where they're expected to win. When we're looking at places like Aberdeen in the north and the borders, it's looking like it's quite a close affair. And in the seats that the SNP are up against the Tories, effectively, they seem to be the seats that are under question. And it may well very be the case that Reform have accidentally slipped in a few extra MSPs of the SNP variety. But also, Nick, it's also good to hear that Reform are getting quite a good return, isn't it?
They're making a push. Apart from that wee matrix attack we endured there, but we got by, we fixed it, I'm back. We're under attack here, but it's good that Reform are making the push. But you've really got to ask yourself the question, where have they come from? Obviously, you know where they've come from. How have they got to where they've got to in such a short space of time?
Well, this is a thing, Nick, isn't it?
It's been zero.
We can't deny the political climate now where people are desperate, Nick, absolutely desperate to go anywhere else bar Tories and Labour. We can't deny that. But at the same time, it does feel a bit orchestrated. And this is where it's, and I will probably finish up the speech. I might call it string theory, where we're working out. I mean, I refuse the strings, but who is puppeteering Reform? This is a question. Is there anyone puppeteering Reform?
I would say there is.
Well, yeah, of course. And it would be probably naive to think that someone isn't, because there's always someone in the background. But again, we need to be. Is it worth the gamble, Nick? Would you put your eggs in the Reform basket then?
The gamble's there. Whether people want to roll the dice and take the gamble is the question. But I think what's stuck in a lot of people's minds is, regardless of who's in, right, they ain't going to do shit for the country, right? This is an old, mentality of people. Well, Labour were in, they made an arse of it in 2008. Then the Tories came in and they were all talk. They promised this, they promised that, they've done nothing. New Labour's coming back, they promised this, they promised that, they've done. So it's this sort of, they're full of promises, but they've never delivered. So is Reform just going to be another one where we're full of promises, but are they going to deliver? Whether you want to take the gamble and roll the dice on them and vote and get them in as an opposition, because they're not going to win at this stage. Yes, they've made a big push, but they haven't pushed enough to obviously win this campaign, win this election. But the next 4 years, if they keep going on the trajectory that they are going, you could potentially see a massive turn in politics. And all these branding, far right, far left, all of this needs to get put that in the bin. Put this ideology of your right wing, your left wing, fucking bullshit away. And just look at the people. Look at the people. Look at the person. Look at the party. Look at the candidates. You don't need to agree with everything that everybody says at all times. You don't need to be so invested to where you're like, he can't do no wrong. People can do wrong. We're human. We make mistakes, right? But it's the mistakes that make us. You're meant to learn from your mistakes. Yeah. So
it's the human condition, Nick, isn't it?
Of course it is.
This is the thing. To err is to be human, and the fact that this is humans. Again, I sort of go back on this as well, but it's literally through making mistakes that we learn and gain experience. And sometimes, it's not enough to tell your son or daughter, look, don't make the same mistake as me. They end up having to make the same mistake as you in order to learn anyway. Because it's through making the mistake and gaining the experience that that we do learn and we do sort of become better people. Look, we're going to I'm getting some more updates as to, and this time it's spoiled ballots, right? So we're getting loads of spoiled ballots at the Paisley and Renfrewshire count. Most saying do not consent. And again, interestingly, we're getting a lot of ballots saying women won't wished. So the women are clearly making their voice heard. I think there must have been a mass campaign as to say, because in essence, the women won't wish movement, they can't vote Labour, can they? They can't vote SNP, can they? They can't vote Greens. They can't vote. They can perhaps vote Reform. That's
yeah,
the thing.
they can't vote any of the major parties because they're all pro this fucking paedophile cult. I mean, how are you meant to deal with that? You know?
No.
So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place for the people who are for backing these movements. I mean, it's how I'm absolutely baffled as to how people had gone on this Labour tactical vote. Like, you've just screwed yourself. Like, the UK is about to descend into pure chaos, and there's no order in place. Now, you can't have order without chaos, and you can't have chaos without order. There is no order in place for the chaos that is about to be bestowed upon us. We are screwed.
Well, we need to give our viewers some hope, Nick. This is the thing, right? As long as there's people like you, and as long as there's people like me, and as long as there's people like Alistair McConnachie, which I'm going to bring up just shortly, there is hope. This is the thing. But I'm going to bring Alistair up because I need I trust Alistair to sort of.
The deadly duo. The deadly
yes,
trio.
the deadly. It will be the deadly duo for 5 minutes. Yeah, I mean, you two actually bounce off well together. But what I'll do is, there is hope, right? As long as there's people like me, you, Alistair, who refuse the strings. And this is, I'm a full bottle deep of champagne, guys, because it's been such an incredible night. But the thing is, we need to be able to trust, right, that the people that we're going to elect will refuse the strings, that will refuse to be puppeteered in such a fashion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Alistair up. We're going to bring him to the stage. Here he is.
Just take a look. Oh, I was going to say, take a look at the people sitting on that panel there. Just look at them. They're either fat, obese, old. Seriously, look at the people they're putting on these panels. Get some young blood in there. Somebody.
What you've described, I mean, all the words you've described is Nicola Sturgeon, right? Right. So I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of Alistair. Alistair's going to helm the show for the next 50 minutes. I really need a break, guys. I've been going for 5 hours. So I'm going to come back in about 15 minutes time. I know 5 hours is amateur. I need the stamina. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove myself. I'm going to make Alistair the host, and you, Nick, and you can talk about whatever you want and just keep it going. We need the ball rolling, and you're in the capable hands of Alistair, right? So I'm going to remove myself.
Fantastic, folks. Do you know, so good to be on this show tonight with Nick and with the fantastic crew from Niall Fraser's team. They really have done a tremendous job tonight. And I've been looking around the watching the various ITV shows. I've been watching the STV shows. I've been watching the Sky shows, and there's nothing even comes close to what Niall was putting on tonight, because we are literally the grassroots. We are the actual people that those people in the studios, these overweight, over-remunerated people are talking about. We are the actual people at the sharp end of the policies. And I'm totally with you, Nick, when you say if we indeed have a 410 MP Labour majority, the country is completely screwed. That is the case. However, what I will say is politics is like a game of chess, and there's always another move that you make. So somebody makes a move and you seem to be caught, but you've got to figure out how do you get back to your particular winning streak. And that's always an option. That's always an option. And so what we're going to have to look at, and we won't know what the full lay of the land is until tomorrow, but what we've got to look at is where do our chess pieces lie, and what is the most likely thing that's going to happen in this country going forward in the next, well, for us, in the next 2 years up until 2026. And then in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Now, some people, and I'm thinking of Peter Hitchens, said for many years that he thought he wanted to see the absolute complete destruction of the Tory party. And he thought that would be a very good thing for his particular brand of politics. And what I found very interesting was that in the last, 6 weeks, when he suddenly realized that, oh my goodness, the Tory party is actually going to be destroyed, he rode back on that faster than a cross-channel swimmer trying to row back or swim back across the channel, or faster than a motorized dinghy can actually cross the English Channel. He totally rode back on that. And now he was wanting everybody to vote for the Tories to save us from a Starmer government. Well, we're going to get a Starmer government. It's going to be absolutely terrible. The Tories will be destroyed. And quite frankly, I think that is a good thing, because I think that they are past their sell-by date. And I don't know what you think of this, Nick, but I think that the Tories and Labour are two cheeks of the same globalist arse. And it's good that at least one cheek is black and bruised right now. And in fact, the muscle fiber is probably going to degenerate and you're only going to have one cheek left. What do you think of that analogy?
No, you're right. There is no difference between the two, really, apart from the person who runs the party. That's the only difference. And they're both puppeteered by the same people. They're both told what to say by the same people. It's like, what we've got to remember is the people you see on the telly is not the people who are making the decisions. They're just the mouthpiece. They're the ones sitting there with a wee folder, with the bits of paper, reading for a script. Right? That's what they're doing. They're bad actors. They call us bad faith actors. They are the bad faith actors. They're sitting there with a script in front of them. They know what questions are going to be asked. They know what answers to give. Right? It's like a comedy show. Whereas when you get people like yourself and like me, we don't read for scripts. We don't read from what's the word of them? The wee things they read on the telly screens. You know,
monitors.
Whatever they're called. We don't sit and read for them. We say what's in here and what comes inside. And that's what makes us different. That's what makes us the louder voice. Yes. Because we don't conform to your controlling mechanism. We are not controlled by anybody. Now, by all means, I have no influence over people. I have a very, very small following, but I have a very loud voice. And
you do.
And I'm not scared.
I've heard it.
I know, and I'm not scared to say my voice and speak my voice. And this could absolutely be the downfall of me in terms of Scottish law. If I keep going the way I'm going, Scottish law might have something to say about it. And then I have another battle on my hands. and I'm fully prepared to take on that battle, I'll play that chess piece. I'll sacrifice a queen or a knight or a bishop if I have to, because I can get that back. I just get a wee pawn to the other side and I will come back stronger, you know? So I love using chess analogies because I like chess. I play chess. It's a fantastic game of knowledge and understanding. And it's actually a game of life if you play it right. But under a Labour government, yes, we need to try and fill the people with hope and a little bit of, you know, encouragement that there might be light at the end of the tunnel. It is a very, very long tunnel we're about to head into. This isn't going to be a short trip. This isn't going to be a little trip underneath, you know, the English Channel. This is going to be more like going from the UK to Australia under a tunnel. And to try and see the light at the end of it, times are going to be dark before they get better. And that's the reality that people are going to need to live in. But they're also going to need to realise that 14 years of Tory government, you ain't going to change that overnight, right? This isn't going to be, you're going to go to your bed on Friday night and you're going to wake up on Monday morning and everything's going to be all sunshine and rainbows. You know, you can't just overturn a 14-year rule over a weekend. You know, this is maybe going to take them the next 4 years. And maybe longer to fix the damage that's been done to this country.
Yeah. Well, Labour are going to come in. The difference between Labour and Tories is always that Labour comes in with a plan. They've got a whole list of things that they're going to do with a majority, whereas Tories come in with never any kind of plan. And to the extent that Tories or the Conservative Party has an ideology, it's always all over the place. It tends to concentrate on economic technicalities, which, quite frankly, are always up for debate anyway. But it never has an actual plan of government. So it'll always come in and it'll make vague claims about, for example, supporting education or defence or whatever, but it never actually puts anything into motion. Whereas Labour always comes in, it's like, this is what we are going to do now that we are in power. I mean, Labour are like a revolutionary party. They always have been, whereas the Conservatives have been a sort of just I wish, could you pass me that? Could you pass me that, please? Can I have some of that?
He's sitting on that. I'm sitting on the water. What's going on here?
Oh my god! I didn't realise it would pop like that. I was, I've not got a bolt up now. It's just a lighter there, but wow, gentlemen.
Yeah. So my point here is that Labour are going to come in with a plan, and the plan is always to see how much we can bugger up Britain, and that really should be the name of their manifesto. It should be Labour has released its new manifesto entitled "How to Bugger Up Britain," how we will bugger up Britain in the next 5 years. That would be the most honest title for their manifesto, but they cage it in all sorts of clever terms, but they never actually put it into plain English. However, when you read it, you have to be thinking, how is this going to further the purpose of buggering up Britain? Because that is always Labour Party's policy number one. That's why you should never vote for Labour. I mean, it's just like, for me, it's unconscionable. Anyway, having said that, they're going to do that, and they're going to do all sorts of stuff that's going to make things worse. But one of the things what that will do is, for every action, there's always an equal and opposite reaction. And so when they make things worse in that way, other movements will grow. And if this is so important about reform, is if they can get tonight, and we'll find out in a few hours, if they can get some kind of roots into Parliament and voices that can be heard, then there's an opportunity that resistance might grow. And you touched on it earlier. It's like, will that resistance be compromised? And that's a big, big worry, because the people who have got the power are the people who have got the money to put behind it, and the people who have got the media. And if the money and media try to compromise reform, they can do so. And they'll try to do so on certain key points. One of them the most obvious one will be war. They're going to try to get reform to support war with Russia. They're going to try to get reform to support war against Iran. They're going to try to get reform to be a kind of warmongering party against China. That's what the people who have got the money are going to try to do. And
say the name, Alistair. Say the name of the state.
I don't want to do, but you know what I'm saying? They will try to get us into these wars. So at the end of the day, if Farage comes out for war against Russia, if he comes out for war against... See, what they want to do is they want to take down Russia. And then when they take down Russia, they're going to take down Iran, because they have to take down Russia first, because Russia's got the Crimea. And the Crimea is the main area where the planes can take off to defend Iran. Because if Israel and America and Britain start a war with Iran, Russia will come in on Iran's side.
Well, so it's all lining up that way, isn't it?
Alistair? Yes. And so they have to take Crimea out of Russia's hands first of all. So the first thing is to take down Russia and then Iran. And I'm not talking about they're going to do this in the next few weeks. This is a thing if it takes them 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. I mean, the people who want war want perpetual war. Perpetual war.
I mean, let's look
and
at
this is this is a huge thing that we're facing, and most people don't understand the war party, but they want us constantly in war. And so where is reform going to lie? And the money is going to try to get reform and Farage and so on to go for war against Russia and go for war against Iran and all that shit, quite frankly, that none of us want to deal with. So that's a major fault line that reform is going to be facing. And if it can stand up against that, then it will be a real British national party. It'll be a real sovereign party defending British sovereignty. So that's a big area of it, and that's the kind of main area at the moment that we're facing.
I'd just like to thank you, Alistair, first of all, for taking the helm there. It really is appreciated. I mean, I can't go more than 5 hours without a wee tiny break, right?
Well, you've done amazing. Absolutely fantastic.
But we're killing the viewers. We've got over 3,100 people tuning in us right now live across X and YouTube. Although I'm looking at X, it's 4 people. Not 4. I'm looking at YouTube. It's 4 people.
Well, you only started that YouTube platform today, so I mean, you can't expect any more than that.
Well, we've got 3 subscribers on it.
One of which is me, by the way. And the other one is you and your producer.
I mean, let's just sort of continuing on what you're saying about. Let's focus on the war for a situation for the next half an hour, right? I'm going to run for another half an hour, right? Let's look at where this election puts Britain on the war front, right? Because we looked at Farage there for a second, right? And Farage, what's he asking for? He's asking for to increase the military to 100,000 troops or whatever it is. And he's looking to increase the amount of recruits. Why?
Well, why? I mean, you want a military that's combat ready, but the question is, ready for what? Now, I'd be happy to lift the army up to 100,000 if you put them all in one line along the White Cliffs.
The border, yes, exactly.
You know, that's what the army is for. But if you're going to tell me, if you're going to tell me that you want to spend lots of money on the military so you can go and bomb people in Eastern Europe, or worse, even people in the Middle East, then count me out.
Yeah, exactly.
And count everybody out, because that's not our concern. It's not our war. Okay, so this is when people start talking. I mean, I'm a militarist in the sense that I love British military history, and I'm for the armed forces, and I respect our veterans and our war dead. But we have to be for self-defense, not for going about fighting foreign wars for foreign causes.
It's not a battle.
It's not our battles, and we have to. Britain is one of the most powerful nations in the world. People say, "Oh, we're not important anymore." We actually are. It's Britain, America, and beyond that, well, who else really in Western Europe is powerful? I mean, all the other nations in Europe don't have the power and the military really that we've got. We're a nuclear power. Even though it's not that much, we're still a major player, and we are like us in America. We're like that, you know, and that's America on top.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the EU and the European Union seems hell bent on dragging us into a full-on world war with Russia. And we've got Russia. What's happened recently in the news? In fact, we're going to get all four of us in because David Scott would be a great addition to this. Sorry, David, if I just inadvertently added you, but this conversation really does suit a person of your caliber here. But when we're looking at what's shaping up for the World War III, right? We're looking at North Korean troops recently being moved into the Ukraine conflict. For the first time ever, they're going to be leaving North Korea and they're going to be fighting alongside Russia. We've got Brazil, Russia, India, China. This new currency. And you know, my next speech, I was about to say something like, all the pounds in your bank, all the pounds in your wallet, they may as well have an expiration date on them. They may as well have an expiration date. There's not one fiat currency on the planet, not one fiat currency that's ever stood the test of time, because it can't, because it's based on nothing but belief in the system, right? And again, Alistair, it's a tough one to take. It's a very tough pill to take, right? But
I'm not going to swallow that one, but go ahead with your thought anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's one of all. First of all, there's not one fiat currency that stood the test of time. Not one. Everyone has expired.
And you know, and a little coin, little gold coin, a sovereign, was £1. And if you buy one today, what's it cost? £400. So 399 400ths of the value of £1 has gone, and that's happened in just over 100 years.
I mean, for the life of me, I can't really get away from the thought that this war is based on currency, and it is based on the petrodollar heading for the hills. It's heading for the dustbin of history, and the BRICS currency coming up. And this is a question. This is a question I asked George Galloway. I was invited onto his show, and the first question that comes to my mind is, what happens to the pound? What happens to the euro in face of the BRICS currency? And the BRICS currency is just going to absolutely swamp what we've got, especially when we're just printing it like it's gone out of fashion. And like me and David talked about earlier on the show about the inflation that's caused by just the costly lockdown crisis and all the money they printed. Alistair, I'd love to hear your alternative take on this.
I know David and I totally disagree on this, but I totally believe that money is not backed by some metal that you get out of the ground. It's backed by people and their skills and their inherent ability. That's what gives a nation's currency value. Metal is totally irrelevant to it. I could hold a gold bar here and I could throw it in the bin, okay? Because it does nothing for me. What gives me value is my life, my ability to create things, my ability to write, my ability to have relationships with people. It's value. Human value comes from the human. It doesn't come from pieces of metal in the ground. That's utterly absurd. Utterly absurd. To me, it's mental. So I know that other people say, no, metal is so important because it's got some kind of godly value inherent in it. No, it's a piece of metal that you can throw away. So it's like at the end of the day, it's like, what do you believe money is backed by? And money is backed by the human being. It's not backed by a materialistic pieces of metal or coins or whatever that people invest some kind of value in. So I don't think there's anything wrong with creating money out of nothing, because how else do you create money? You have to create it out of nothing. But there is something wrong with creating too much of it. And that's where the problem lies. It's too much of it. Go ahead, David. Go ahead.
Niall, do you want to have?
I mean, even in my spare time, I've been reading through the pre-Socratic philosophers. I mean, all the philosophers that have come pre-Socrates, and even the notion of using money to create money is a notion that was despised by ancient philosophers. I mean, it's and again, it's this it's the interest, right? You're using capital in order to create more capital. You're not using labor. You're not selling, or you're not providing a service. You're just using one commodity to create another. It's not philosophically moral. But I mean, when we're talking about money, Alistair, I mean, we can't have the Bank of England create billions of pounds and not expect our money to diminish, and not expect people to lose faith in that very concept.
The problem,
I don't think that's correct. No,
the reason we've got a cost of living crisis is because of the money printing during COVID.
The reason the Nord Stream pipeline getting blown up was what's causing the energy crisis. Climate, the net zero thing, which prevents fossil fuel extraction, causes things like inflation rises not because of money printing; it rises because of shortages of goods.
It's money print. It's principally money printing, and it's very interesting what happened this time, because when he did the money printing in 2008, created a lot of money, but it essentially stayed within the banking system.
Yes,
so
it did.
They bailed out the banking system, so they gave a lot of reserves to the banks. They recapitalized the banks. All the American banks certainly got recapitalized.
Just a wee bit of breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. We have the police removing ballots in Glasgow with suspected voter fraud.
Yeah, I just seen that on X about 10 minutes ago.
The police, and I repeat, guys, this is from STV News. The police are removing ballots and suspected voter fraud. So I want to sort of, I mean, we're getting a bit heated about this topic, right? And maybe it's a conversation for another time. Of course, you can have a rebuttal, David. I'm not going to...
Just a quick 2 minutes on it, right? So the difference between 2008 and now is the Fed and the central banks were buying assets or doing quantitative easing, right? Creating money out of thin air, and they were buying assets from non-banking financial organizations, which put it into not the banking system, but put it into the more general economy. And because that money printing went into the general economy, we got inflation. Now,
I don't accept that, but go ahead.
Okay, but that's my view. Now, couple of things. One, money is a commodity, okay, and it's simply the most generally desirable good. It's a free market phenomenon, right? If you let people trade, they'll trade whatever they've got, and eventually the thing that's most tradable, most generally desirable, ends up being money, right? It doesn't have to be metal. It's just over the years, over the centuries, that's the one that's emerged as the best answer. Now, the other thing is, if you give it to politicians and you put the power into politicians' hands or bankers' hands, but ultimately, most people who are talking about these things are talking about politicians' hands, to create money, and they create money. Where does it get its value? It gets the value from taking value from the existing money supply that's in circulation. So it's a form of theft. And the alternative, which is a metal-backed system, is money with integrity. It doesn't suffer the inflation.
It's a finite resource,
and it doesn't suffer political. It's not subject to political control, and this is why it's a beautiful thing, because it's everybody has a stake in it, and it's not subject to manipulation in the same way. And this is it's a very elegant system, and it worked relatively well, even though it was still a fractional system. It worked very well for 100 years. We had mild deflation. The value of your money just very gradually got more over time, which was good for pensioners, good for investment, good for saving, good for all these things. And since we've had central banking, and central banking is a lot worse than banking, we've had 399 400ths of our money's value destroyed, and that has a very horrible effect on a society, and we're seeing it in a multitude of ways. That's my view. So we'll move on from it, because we could be all night on money, I'm sure.
I want to reiterate just the breaking news that police are removing ballots in Glasgow with suspected voter fraud. This is probably the story of the night.
What kind of fraud?
Well, this is. I'm just going to link the story
at account.
This is from STV News. I'll see if I can get it up on Twitter and get it. STV News.
Police swarm general election count centre over alleged voter impersonation.
Here we go. Police remove Glasgow ballots and suspected voter fraud. This is giant news. Absolutely giant news.
Did you really expect anything different, though? Like,
what do you think? Put your hands up if you reckon it's postal votes. It's close. It's going to be postal votes. This is crazy. So again, perhaps we'll do a stream. I actually like this debate that's going on between Alistair and David as to the currency. I really do like it, and I can see both sides yet. More to the point. 4
minutes ago,
just because really money
George Galloway
and the pound only has.
What's Nick saying?
Sorry, we're talking over each other, Nick.
Sorry, guys.
I think money in general and fiat currency, it's only got as much power as as the belief in the system, right? But Alistair's correct in what he's saying is that British culture and the British pound has got a really large value to it. At the same time, I understand the more the basis that they're just printing more. They're just printing more and more and more, and it's not a finite resource. And every time they print more, the money in your bank is devalued.
Yes, well, it depends. It depends upon what you spend the money on. You print the money, and if you spend the money on wealth creating things, then it's going to create more wealth. If you spend the money,
you can't make people richer by printing bits of green paper.
Oh, you can make society better by printing money. Yes, you absolutely can. If you print too much of it, if you print too much of it, of course you can make the currency collapse.
Gents, I'm not having this debate on.
David said how much, and at the end of the day, that's a political question.
But this conversation must be had. Yeah, we'll have this conversation again, right, gents? Actually, I would love a full-on debate show between us, because it's such a fascinating debate, and it needs to be had. And we need to hear both sides. And this is the first time that I've seen both sides represented legitimately. So I'm for Alistair and I'm
absolutely.
For
I think it'd be a good idea. Get the two of us in the studio and we can talk about it.
Absolutely. But tonight we're focused on the demise of the SNP.
Absolutely.
Right? And the breaking news tonight, we're going to share: police remove Glasgow ballots and suspected voter fraud. Ladies and gentlemen, was this predictable? We'll go to Nick. Predictable or not?
Just very quickly, George Galloway loses his seat in Rochdale to Labour.
You're taking the piss.
No.
Wow.
So there's that one. So just to put a pin, we'll just put a pin in that one for a second. Was this? I seen this coming. This was inevitable. Of course, this was going to happen. You know what I mean? They can't have, like I said to Alistair when I met up with Alistair a few weeks ago. If something is this important to your country, why would they allow you to do it for free? Why would they allow you to vote for free, right? The government never lets you do anything for free, right? They don't. So why would they allow you to do this if it's so important to the country for free? It's premeditated.
Come on, Nick.
They know what's going to happen.
It's the basis of what our country's founded on. Is
democratic
one person,
right.
one vote. Yes.
I always disagree. I disagree with that because we were not founded as a democracy. We were founded as a monarchy, which became a constitutional monarchy. And up until relatively recently, the franchise was very limited, right? And not everyone had the vote. And the country did okay and actually was remarkably responsive to how people were viewing things, right? Because there was like a grassroots campaign against slavery, and we went into enormous amounts of debt to buy out all the slaves, and then we sent the Royal Navy, West African Squadron to stop the slave trade. And that was based on grassroots organization. Now, when we're a democracy, right, everyone marches in the street against the war in Iraq, and we go to war in Iraq.
Yes.
Right? I don't actually think that democracy has helped us, and I don't think it's what we're based on. And honestly, hand on heart, guys, I know this is an election night, probably shouldn't be saying this. I think it carries within itself the seeds of its own destruction, because people will discover they can vote themselves other people's cash, and when they vote themselves other people's cash, your country is in serious trouble.
Well, we've got more breaking news, guys. We've got a final result in Kilmarnock and Loudon.
Okay.
Labour have taken the seat in Kilmarnock and Loudon. They've up 26% to 44.6%. They've taken it off SNP.
Who was the incumbent?
19,000 for Labour, 13,900 for SNP. Reform got an 8.2% as a
wow, 8.2% in Kilmarnock.
8.2% in Kilmarnock. Guess what? Conservatives got in Kilmarnock 8.3. So they're literally on par with Conservatives. I think we'll probably see this across Scotland.
That's very interesting. The incumbent there was Alan Brown, whose whose only notable appearance in the House of Commons was asking a question of Theresa May that she couldn't interpret, and then it got passed to the chairman with the speaker, and he didn't understand what was going on, and then he told Alan Brown to sit down. It's like it's the funniest piece of political theatre. That was about 5 years ago.
Again, guys, that was almost 3,200 people watching us at the moment. Can you believe this, guys?
Alan Brown had a 12,659 majority, and that's been overturned. Well, I mean, if that can be overturned, that's incredible.
I told you, Nat Zero's still not impossible.
It's not impossible. That we can all agree. That would be fantastic.
I went and had another look at ITV's coverage actually after I was on the first time, and Nicola's sitting at the desk, and she gets a text message, and she checks her phone out live on air, and she reads whatever the text message is, and she's got a pen, and she starts to jiggle her hand back and forward with the pen. like in an involuntary nervous action. So I don't know what was on the text message, but I don't think it was good news.
Yes, it might have been. It might have been that result.
Do you think they're actually sitting there, right, and going, "We're fucked"? Like, do you think it's sunk in yet? I don't know.
Well, I mean, we had a man from the count in the Highlands, and the SNP were crying at the count.
Good.
I mean, it's just it seems like the SNP are up for total annihilation, which is lovely to see.
Well, last night I was interviewing Michael Mann, who was the Reform Party candidate, who is the Reform Party candidate in North Ayrshire and Arran. And I was trying to kind of give him what I thought was kind of prepare him as well. And I said, you know, if you win your deposit, that would be amazing. 5% of the vote. Well, if they're getting 8%, if Reform's getting 8% in Kilmarnock, then it's likely that in every constituency almost in Scotland, they're going to win the deposits, which will be unheard of.
It would be
utterly unheard of.
And the
last minute as well. Just in the last minute, we've got Labour gain Western Bartonshire from the SNP, 6,000 majority Labour over the SNP. Last minute.
Wow.
The whispers that Reform have overtaken the Tories in parts of North Lanarkshire.
Okay.
There's video evidence now of the police removing Glasgow ballots and suspected voters.
Yeah, I've got it. I've just type in STV News, and you'll see the police taking away ballots. I think I've retweeted it.
in evidence bags.
No, just in their hand. Wait a minute.
It looks like I wish I could. What I'll do is I'll copy the tweet.
It is going into evidence bags.
So check this, guys, out. There we go. There it is. And this is so good. The thing is, if you're the police, and if you are, I mean, we've seen a quite a weird situation here in Scotland where the police seem to be acting against the SNP, right? Over the last few years, right? We've had Operation Branchfall, right? We've had a police tent in Nicola Sturgeon's front garden, right? We've had police Scotland arrest and charge Peter Murrell. We've had the SNP headquarters raided. And now we've got ballots getting removed for Glasgow and suspected voter fraud. Do you think that Police Scotland have had enough of the SNP? Do you think that there's a police rebellion?
Very quickly as well, Lee Anderson wins Ashfield for Reform.
That's crazy.
It's
all going to plan.
Now,
that's good.
The overall position is currently SNP so far, no seats. The Conservatives have had 27 seats that they hold or held come up. 28. No, 30. They've had 30 seats come up. Just refreshing the screen here. They've held 2 and lost 28.
Wow. Goodness me.
Now, the exit poll had them on 131 seats. It could be way worse than that.
Yes. Yes.
And one of the ones they held on to was the 8th safest seat in the country, and they lost 35% of the vote. They held it, but their vote was slashed.
Yeah.
And that was one of the successes.
Yeah.
3 hours ago, SNP Westminster leader Stephen Flynn has less than a 16% likelihood of retaining his Aberdeen South seat. Let me see if I can get the guy from Aberdeen South on the phone.
I don't understand why anybody in Aberdeenshire area should be voting.
It doesn't make any sense, Alistair, doesn't it?
When they want to destroy what that area's wealth base is, which is to say fossil fuel extraction, it's just beyond belief for me that he should have any votes at all. I don't know what anybody else feels about that, but it's just
we're going to get Graham on the phone, who's on the ground in Aberdeen.
Hello, Niall.
Hello, Graham. You're live to 3,200 viewers on Niall Fraser Show.
Wow.
What is the situation on the ground in Aberdeen? I'm hearing conflicting reports that Stephen Flynn might not retain his seat. What's the situation?
There's no news here yet. We've been away to look at some of the spoiled votes, and there's some very creative artwork on them. I can assure you. It's also quite surprising to see a lot of people saying all useless, all liars, thieves, blah blah blah, and that shows you how disillusioned people are with mainstream politicians and parties. And in a lot of cases, they may well be right, but it's a bit disheartening when you get ordinary people like you and me that say, look, we can do things slightly different. It's a shame that people don't realise that it is just regular, honest folk just putting themselves out there, basically. But in terms of results, there's not really any information yet, so we're going to get taken away soon for provisional results. But yeah, I'm hearing mixed things as well. Some folk are saying that Conservative are maybe going to get one or both of the seats. I still think it's SNP, certainly for Aberdeen South. I've mainly been round Aberdeen South tables. I've not really been round Aberdeen North or anything. But I suspect it's going to be Stephen Flynn keeping his seat, I think. But can't tell really. So
right, okay. Well, we're just phoning for a wee bit of confirmation because we're getting a wee bit of conflicting reports.
Here's a report from the BBC.
Thank you very much, Graham. You've been an absolute star.
Or deny anything at this end yet, Niall. But as soon as we hear something a bit more firm, we'll be in touch. But you'll probably see it on the news anyway. They've got pretty good coverage going on just now.
Right, you take care, Graham, and thanks very much for answering the call. Okay.
Send yourself, Niall. All the best. Cheers, now.
I've got a report here from the BBC. Here in North Lanarkshire, where the SNP are defending 4 seats against Labour, an SNP candidate has just told me, I'm going to lose. We're all going to lose.
Oh, wow.
Not that I listen to the BBC
they're saying all 4 North Lanarkshire seats. Motherwell, I'm told, won't even be close, particularly with an unexpectedly strong reform vote.
Wow. Interesting. Well, Motherwell, that area, anyway, I know the new Motherwell, Wishaw and Carluke, it's a new constituency, but they've always returned strange votes over the years. It's one of these areas that you never can tell what the people are thinking. They've returned communists in the past. Gets going back quite a bit now, as well as the very first ever SNP MP back, was it just after the war? And I think it was a by-election, and he only stayed in his place for a few months, and then he lost it. So, yeah, Motherwell is a very interesting demographic area. And the predicted win for Motherwell, Wishaw and Carluke is the pro-union campaigner Pamela Nash, who was until very recently the CEO of Scotland and Union.
Yeah.
Yes. And she was quite well recompensed for that, I presume. And she's decided to give that up for a better job in Westminster for Labour. And it looks like she might well get that.
I'm sure she'll do someone else's bidding, Alistair, because she certainly was doing absolutely nothing at Scotland and Union.
Well, she was.
Nicola Sturgeon saying that Stephen Flynn has won his seat on ITV. Stephen Flynn looks like a safe seat in Aberdeen. This is the last few minutes. Look, I mean, let's just get him up for a second here. Let's just bask in. This is our new opponent, gentlemen. This is our new opponent. Because I mean, realistically, he is the SNP Westminster leader. He gets so much media attention, but I'll get him out of Alistair's face now.
You can't even talk right, man. Like, seriously, why do people listen to him?
I have no idea, Nick. But this likely is going to be the new leader of the SNP, right? They can't continue with John Swinney, surely, after losing such a massive general election like this. I mean, we'll finish off with this debate. We've got we're going to push on our 10 minutes, right? I thought I was going to end at 3. We went on 6 hours. but we'll finish at 3:15. Right, we've got another 15 minutes. What's the next steps for SNP, guys? Seriously, I mean, what is the next? They've just faced utter desolation tonight.
Social justice warriors always lie, so they'll deny it. Really, it wasn't a bad result, really. Social justice warriors always double down. Every mistake that led them to this, they will double down on it. And social justice warriors always project. They'll then call people names. They'll accuse all their opponents of being everything that they are, and they'll learn nothing.
What is there to actually learn from this experience for them, though? If they can actually self-analyze themselves, right, which is a key important thing, if they have the ability to self-analyze and say, right, where did we go wrong here, right, and look at the chain of events that has led ultimately to their demise. Yes, it's 17 years worth. That's a long fucking time to look at, right? But they need to look at their biggest failures, ferry scandals, the corruption, the whole victim mindset that everybody's against us. All of this, if they can really look at the grassroots of their failures, they might be able to gain a little bit of credibility back. Now, it's not to say that they're going to overturn in 2026, right? That's by no means. That's what they're going to look at. Like, we can overturn this in 2026, but that's not going to happen.
The problem is, it's their whole soul, right? They've sold their soul to these things. Yeah. I don't know how they roll back from this. I really don't.
Well, that's all they can do really is self-analyze and look at their failures. Like, don't deny their failures. Like, oh, we've done the best for Scotland that Scotland's ever seen. It's like, no, you didn't. You led us into total destruction, and you would keep leading us into even more destruction if we allowed you to. But it needs people like us to stand up against them with a voice, who's brave enough to speak the voice. I mean, we can say it internally to ourselves, but you need to have the bottle to stand up and be counted and be heard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with Nick there. And I think that the SNP, as David also said, they probably won't learn very much from it. If they learn anything, it will be like, we didn't double down, we didn't treble down, we didn't quadruple down enough. Yeah. And so they're not going to roll back and say, oh, actually, David and Alistair and Nick and Niall are actually correct. We should go along with what they say. They're just going to be continually worse. So I don't see them learning from it. And I see 2026 coming around. I see reform becoming a major force in Scotland, in the sense of getting considerable numbers of MSPs in. And that's 2 years from now. I think that Labour are going to try to mess up the United Kingdom as much as they possibly can in the intervening period, so that even if reform get in 2026, it's harder even for us to do anything. But I think we will get in 2026, or people like us will get in.
Because I totally agree with your analysis there, Alistair. What do you think will be the sort of the repercussions of reform getting into Holyrood? I mean, what does that look like?
It depends upon who the people are that get in, and if they've got the cajones to be able to stand up and articulate the sorts of things that we've been talking about tonight. And that requires us, as Nick said as well, to provide in many ways the voice and the ideas for them, because Holyrood, just like Westminster, it's a very it's a place where you can go and you can very quickly get drawn into the system. And it's like, oh, actually, I don't want to shout against these SNP people because they're actually very nice, because I had a few drinks with them in the bar and I had my subsidized lunch with them, and he seems like a very nice guy, so I don't want to give him a hard time. You know, it needs reform candidates to be like, seriously, revolutionary minded, because we're living in a revolutionary age. If we're going to turn back what is happening to the country, we need men and women of substance who can do that, and not weak-willed people. They have to be really strong, and this is where reform itself is going to have to find those people who can do that.
This is what Swinney tweeted out yesterday. John Swinney said, Scotland's values are the SNP's values. Vote for them tomorrow, right? So that's the kind of arrogant stuff you get, right? And he then listed them, right? For ending Westminster austerity, right? Now I translated that as tax, print, and borrow and spend recklessly, right? He said for eradicating child poverty. That's an interesting one, because what they do is they make it a relative measure, not an absolute measure, and then they monkey a little bit with the benefit system and tax the well-off. And the poor people are just as poor, but they're now no longer characterized as poor. The figures say something else. For protecting our NHS. Now, the NHS kill 18,200 Scots and the women. Who knows how many old people? Because if you let a Stalinist organization decide whether you're going to live or die, eventually it comes for you. For rejoining the EU, so vote for the SNP for the Union, just the wrong one. And then finally, for a future made in Scotland. And this is what you'll get. These banal, a future made in Scotland. What does that mean? What sort of future? Serfdom is the future he's talking about. They never discuss what the future is. It's just as long as it's made in Scotland. Oh, it's made in Scotland, right? As though somehow we are magic people who can do no wrong. No, we can make bad mistakes. We can have socialism. We can be Venezuela. We can be Singapore. We get to choose. They're making all the wrong choices and they won't discuss it. So what you're going to get from the SNP is more of that sort of nonsense. Nothing of substance, right? No people of substance, because they're not attracting people of substance. And I think it's going to be really interesting, because the mood in the country is 17 years, they're exhausted, they've got no ideas. The big list you were giving earlier on the mistakes they've made, the first one was named person, going after the children. And the whole issue of children has been huge in this. If you watch what people are saying to Swinney in response to his tweets, bananas and Nutella feature frequently. People are really angry about what they've done to the children and what they're doing to the schools. All of this is going to give the country a mood where we need to change these people, right? And I think there's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot more fluid next time in the Scottish Parliament than it ever has been.
So breaking news: Keir Starmer holds his seat.
Okay. Yeah, it's just coming in the last.
Holborn and St Pancras. So it looks like he'll be the next Prime Minister, probably. By the looks of
well,
that.
definitely. It's abysmal what's going to come down the line for us. But I just wanted to sort of to shout out that we are absolutely smashing the viewing figures, gentlemen. This broadcast has been unbelievable. So I'm just, because we're clearing up at 7:15, another 7 minutes, right? I want to thank first David, Alistair, Nick, yourself, and all the guests we had previous for their contributions. It has been utterly stellar. And all of you have really, really pushed this broadcast to the absolute maximum. Just to put it in perspective, we are on par with the Lotus Eaters. So I don't know if you know where the Lotus Eaters are, but they're at 3,600 viewers now, and we are at 3,300 viewers now.
Fantastic. So well done, Niall.
It's all down in part to yourself, contributions like yourself, Alistair, David, Nick, and just overall. It's a bit boutique up here in Scotland. You know what I mean? It's like people in Scotland will be tuning in here just to see our reaction to the SNP's demise. So I'm glad that it's all turned out this way. But
they've still not won a seat.
They've still not won a seat. Nat zero is still possible.
Still possible.
But we are looking at the likelihood.
It'd be quite funny if Skeletor got in, but he was on his own. That would be. There was a certain sad pathos about that.
Yeah. And
come on, let's feel sorry for them just a little bit, just let's just laugh at their demise. I mean, sorry, let's just, let's, yeah.
Well, the next thing is let's get our broadcast sorted for the sort of the deconstruction of what happened tonight. Let's look at what the future holds with Labour at the helm. And I would really love to see this debate between David and Alistair about the currency, because I think that's going to play a massive part in Britain going into the future. I really do think that. So I like to hear both points. I'm leaning towards David's point because I've already sort of reached that conclusion myself, but I've not heard the other side of the argument. See what I'm saying? I haven't heard it at all. So I'm going to be undecided at this moment until I hear the other side of the argument. It's not fair to sort of reach that conclusion and not hear the other side. So I'm so happy. I would gladly facilitate that debate. It's fantastic. Nick, you've been a spirited guest, and you've brought to the point. I mean, you're saying things that normally wouldn't be able to be said, but this is the thing. On the X platform, you can say whatever you want. And I
hold it. Whoa, hold it. Conservatives gain Leicester East from Labour.
Leicester East?
Yeah. Conservative gain.
Wow.
Shivani Raja.
Well, I would chuck a spanner in the works with the whole money thing and say money isn't real. It doesn't exist.
We can bring you on.
Well, it's certainly real when you go to the shop and spend it, Nick.
Well, no, that's a debt. If you go into the shop to purchase, say, a bottle of Iron Brew, that is a debt that you are due now. And that is why on your notes it says you promise to pay the bearer on demand, whatever the figure may be. It's not real. It's numbers on a screen.
We get charged.
To go back to Leicester East, though, I don't know what's going on in Leicester or the east of Leicester, but that might be a kind of sectarian thing, if you know what I'm saying. As far as the vote for that is concerned, I don't really know, but I know that Leicester is one of those areas anyway. So
Leicester, what the hell?
Because that doesn't make any sense, really.
Gaza hurting the Labour vote.
It must have been. There's been a few. Like there was one where it wasn't Bradford. It was sorry. There was one where Reform were expected to win if it had been a uniform kind of swing as per the polls, but they'd actually thrown out their candidate because of something he said. So he didn't win, even though they'd been a kind of close. The Brexit Party had been a close second in the previous election to Labour. So. And then there was the one where Reform did win when it was a former sitting Conservative MP who had joined Reform. So there's a lot of these like kind of local issues playing out as well. It's not just a kind of across the board swing.
Yeah. Very good point.
Ian Duncan Smith holding his constituency.
All right. Okay.
Chingford and Woodford Green. With quite a large majority, actually.
So far, this is Professor John Curtis. So far, the Conservatives have been losing every seat where their lead over Labour was less than 30%. Similarly, the party has also lost every seat it's been defending against the Liberal Democrats, where the majority was less than 30%.
Crikey, that's a big percentage.
They might be toiling to get past 100.
Oh yeah, I mean that would be wipeout territory, really. If they get less than 100, that's an existential. What's the phrase? Existential crisis.
Well, if they're not official opposition, it really is existential crisis.
Yeah.
And currently, I mean, the exit poll had them in 131, Liberal Democrats in 61. It's not that far away.
Yeah.
Right, gentlemen, we are at 1:15. Although we do have 3,300 viewers, we're going to have to bid farewell to them. I would like to thank every single one of you, including Ash, press and journalist, who was on very first, David Griffiths, the architect of the Unionist Tactical Voting Guide, Craig Houston, of course, Alistair McConnachie of UK Force for Good. We'll get all the socials up. David Scott of Northern Exposure, Nick of We Say It podcast. It's been absolutely fantastic. John Watt. Who could forget John Watt bringing the noise, and repping for the vaccine injured community. Something that is really important to me, and important to the country as well. And it was only going to increase in importance over the years, I'm sure.
Yeah. And well done to you and your team, Niall, for putting this on. A great idea, a really good idea. I'm glad somebody did it. Somebody on our team, as it were, to put this together and to bring all of these guys that aforementioned together to be able to contribute our respective wisdom to the matter.
I might be biased, but it's been far more watchable than ITV's coverage.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a certainty. Who could tune into that with a straight face? I mean, yes, they've got the information coming up first, but I mean, if we had access to the information that they do, and the sort of resources that they do, we'd be able to put on a show that would rival anything in the UK.
No doubt about it. And we've got the personalities here as well that would be great. Absolutely. And you're doing this on literally nothing. You're putting this together. You got 3,200 viewers on literally no money, like literally zero money.
Right. We will end it on bad news, gentlemen. Bad news. Kirsty Blackman holds Aberdeen North. Bad news, ladies and gentlemen. Kirsty Blackman
Aberdeen
holds
again. What the
Aberdeen North.
with people in Aberdeen? Are they
Aberdeen? They must be absolutely glaking it up there. I don't know what
Have you seen the song about Kirsty Blackman?
I haven't.
Oh, it's glorious. Mm-hmm. It is wonderful. If I can find it, I'll post it in the WeChat box because you might want to finish on it. It is absolutely awesome. It's the best political song I think I've ever seen.
It was interesting to see Wings of Scotland's pointing out that I did say Ian Duncan Smith held his Chingford constituency comfortably, right? But he's got 17,000 votes. Labour underneath him has got 12,000 votes, and an independent under him has got 12,000 votes as well. An independent taking 12,000 votes.
Grant Sharp's
that's incredible.
Strange times, ladies and gentlemen.
What's Grant Sharp's? What's Grant Sharp's?
Let's see.
Defence Secretary loses his seat to Labour.
Yes!
Wow. Holy dynamite.
Grant Sharp's the missile lover. He was always doing these videos about how he was loving the missiles that he was presenting to us.
Who can he get the news fast enough? We get the news fast enough when you have people like us.
Niall, I've just posted into the chat box a link which is to the song about Kirsty Blackman. And I think since she's won her seat, we should say, well done, Kirsty. You won your seat. We didn't think you could do it. And in tribute to her, I think you should play the song. If you can.
Let's put it in the real chat. Right. Right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been 6 hours and 20 minutes of a broadcast. Once again, thanks for everyone for tuning in. We're finishing up on about 3,300 viewers are live right now. We're going to have to end it on a high. Sadly, Kirsty Blackman's won Aberdeen South, but with Aberdeen North to declare, it looks like an SNP hold because Aberdeen South has been, for Kirsty Blackman, it's really quite annoying. Right. Anyway, what a spirited show we've had. We've had a whole bottle of champagne, and I'm feeling a bit worse for wear. So let's all get a wee bit of kip and rise right in early for tomorrow and see what the chips have, laid. Hold on a minute. I thought I seen some information about Pete Wishart. Hold on a minute. Before we go,
Kip, I get up in like an hour's time anyway. I'm up. That's it.
Pete Wishart. No, I've not seen any information on Wishart. Right, we'll deconstruct this tomorrow, guys. Thanks everyone for tuning in. It's been a great show. Thanks for all the great commenters. It's been fantastic with hundreds and hundreds of comments tonight. I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Go and follow my X account, guys. I need 500 followers. That's my baseline.
Right, let's promote.
Let's go.
Let's promote
500.
next.
I need to get up there. I need that 500 mark. Let's go.
You will
Alistair
get it
as well.
Nick,
it's been a hard grind on fucking X, man. X is so hard.
There we go. Rumble. Right. Gentlemen, it's been spirited.
Alistair, that's where you need to be.
Honestly, I can't thank you enough. But we'll have to leave it there. So I'm signing off, and I'm signing off in the best and ultimate way possible, guys. It's with the L'Amour Europe. Europe for the Europeans. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. It's adios for me. If you want to say goodbye, gentlemen, now's your opportunity.
Goodbye.
Have a good night.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
And
it's been a real pleasure.
Right, gentlemen, au revoir.